This is the story of Oedipus. Once upon a time, there was a king, this fella, Laius, and a queen, this lady, Jocasta. And this is the hero of our story. Doesn't look very heroic yet, but more is to come. So, Jocasta and Laius take their little child off to the oracle to find out his future. Back in the day, people used to go to the oracle, who was a lady like this, who'd sit on a big cloud of smoke like this, and she would commune with the gods like this. Ooh. And the gods would tell her things, and she would tell the people things, and they would act on the basis of those things. This was not a good idea, as you will come to see. Anyway, this particular oracle told Laius and Jocasta that their child would grow up to kill his father and marry his mother. They both thought this was a very bad idea, and so they asked a servant of theirs to take their child and to kill him. So the servant took the child, and he didn't really want to kill him, so what he decided to do was put spikes through his feet and hang him on a tree, and let him die that way. I'm not quite sure why that was an improvement on another method of death, but that's what he decided to do. I was going to give you a picture of spikes through feet, but they were all really gross and they'd put you off your breakfast, so this is my censored version of child with spikes through feet hanging on the hillside. Anyway, baby hanging on a tree with spikes through feet, hanging there waiting to die, and along comes a kindly shepherd. No, not that kind of shepherd. Doesn't matter. Whatever. Shepherd picks up the kid, takes him down the mountain, and gives him to another couple. And this was actually a big improvement for the child because they were a much cooler couple than the previous parents. So this was the king and the queen of, excuse me, king and queen of Corinth. His previous parents were the king and queen of Thebes, and they decided to name him Oedipus, which means swollen feet, because obviously if you have a couple of spikes through your feet, it's going to make them swell. So they had a little baby. They had a lovely little time sitting around watching The Voice and growing up and doing all kinds of fun things. And then when the little baby got old enough to be an adult, he went to the oracle. Good question. It's not a good idea to go to oracles, as I've already mentioned. Anyway, he went to this oracle, and the oracle told him his future. And the oracle said, woo! And he said, you will kill your father, and you will marry your mother. Oh, well, okay, that's marrying your cousin, but you get the idea. And anyway, Oedipus was terribly frustrated by this, thought it was a very bad idea, didn't want to kill his father, definitely didn't want to marry his mother, and so he ran away. And he left home and went on a journey. As he was going on this journey, however, he came across a man at a crossroads, and nobody could decide who was going to win the right of way, and so they got into a fight, and Oedipus, this is grown-up Oedipus here, killed the fellow who he got into a fight with at the crossroads, and that was the end of that. So that fellow is dead. More about him later, but those of you who are sharp and listening attentively might suspect something afoot. Anyway, Oedipus carried on and he arrived at Thebes. Thebes was the place where he was originally born, but he doesn't know he was born in Thebes. But when he got to Thebes, there was a sphinx at the gates of Thebes. A sphinx, as you can tell from this picture, is a creature with a lion's lower body, a woman's upper body, and eagle wings. And the sphinx was in the habit of eating people who couldn't answer its riddle. It was a big jokester. The sphinx liked to ask riddles. Anyway, the sphinx asked Oedipus a riddle. What goes on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? Can any of you guess the answer? You could probably Google it and find out the answer, but let's move on. The answer is, no, that's not the answer. The answer is man, exactly, man. Why man? Because man goes on 4 legs in the morning of our lives, 2 legs at the noon of our lives, and 3 legs. Yes, we'll count the walking stick in the evening of our lives. Oh, what a clever little riddle. Well, the Sphinx was a bad loser and clearly had some social, emotional issues. And so when Oedipus guessed her riddle, she decided to kill herself by throwing herself off a tower. I'm assuming her eagle wings weren't very effective. But anyway, she died. Now, in reward for Oedipus killing the big bad Sphinx, who was eating everyone who came to the city of Thebes and really playing havoc with their tourist industry, he was allowed to marry the queen. The queen's name was Jocasta. You may remember her from the beginning of the story. And why does Jocasta not have a husband? Well, her husband left the town and got killed by somebody on the road. Is it all starting to make sense now? So, Oedipus married the queen. This is Oedipus, this is the queen. She was much older than him, as you have by now surmised. Things go fine for a while, and then a plague comes to town. And Oedipus, as new king of Thebes, wants to solve the problem of the plague, and they ask the oracle again. Bad idea. And the oracle says you have to find out who killed the previous king. So Oedipus decides that he is going to play detective and find out who killed the old king. So Oedipus decides, I will become the greatest detective that mankind has ever known. Absolutely not. Better. So Oedipus goes detectivying and starts to investigate who killed the king. Well, as he investigates, he starts to discover things. And he discovers the king was killed at the crossroads sometime around the time that he killed somebody at the crossroads. And as he interviews people, he eventually figures out that he, in fact, was the man who killed his own father. And because he figured that out, he discovers that he must therefore be married to his own mother. And that makes him feel much like this. And he rushes over to his mother, and she has overheard the news, and she has killed herself, understandably. And he takes the brooch from her robe, and he carves out his eyeballs and blinds himself, and staggers off into the distance, leaves the town of Thebes, and with a walking stick, like a 3-legged man in the eve of his life, moves off to become a wanderer. And that is the story of Oedipus.